So this is my my third video in the series, Paths to Progress. The first video is an overview of what I consider an effective learning process for the guitar. Video number two was finding and working with a guitar teacher or in a class situation. This video is going to be kind of about how to teach yourself or how to practice effectively on your own, to kind of take charge of your own growth. The very first thing that is really important in all this is, you need to be able to give yourself an honest assessment of your own abilities. The best thing to do is to record yourself, either with a little video recorder, a webcam, an audio recorder, with your computer, whatever you've got, and listen and see, am I playing in time? Are my chord changes clean? Whatever. You're going to hear things that you do very well and that you weren't aware of, but you're also going to hear things that are weaknesses that you're not aware of, because when you're playing, you're focusing on actually playing. You kind of hear, what your mind's ear wants to hear when you're playing, But when you listen back in the third person, you start really being able to find the weak spots or the things that you need to work on. And that's what practicing is. Practicing isn't playing the stuff you do well. Practicing is beating the heck out of the things that you're not very good at until you get better at them. So the being able to assess yourself through video or audio or anything like that becomes a real important part of the process. Practicing with some manner of measured timekeeping device. Fancy way of saying use your metronome or play with a drum machine, play along with recordings, and listen back. And the idea with the metronome is that whenever I'm practicing, pretty much about 90% of the time there's a metronome going. Sometimes I turn the metronome off and just try to make sure I can keep time on my own. But when you practice with a metronome on a regular basis, when you go to perform, you're going to have kind of a sense memory of how it feels to play in time. We're developing and honing this inner clock of yours, and most people I know don't play in time very well right off the bat. Very few people, I think, have incredibly natural time where they can do all the things on the guitar that we're supposed to do with, picking or strumming with the right hand and finding chords and all this stuff, and then have it all happen kind of synchronous. And so I push the heck out of the metronome thing in my own playing with my students. In their lessons, you can walk by my office while I'm teaching, and chances are there's some manner of metronome going. That is vitally important to me. That's just anything you do, especially if you're working on something that you're trying to get down. Run the metronome at half the speed. We've talked about this before, until you can execute it cleanly, and then bring the tempo up. One thing that you can do is divide your practice time up into tight and loose practicing. The tight practicing to me is where you sit down and say, I'm going to run this chord progression with the metronome, for 10 minutes, or something that's very structured. Sit down with the intention of working on something and try and get it worked out the best you can within that time. The loose practicing to me is putting on a backing track and jamming with it, or just playing some songs, or any time you've got your hands on the instrument and you're playing. That's loose practicing to me. Even if I'm sitting on the couch watching TV and just kind of noodling, even that stuff is helpful. But the tight practicing, you need to be able to sit down in a controlled environment. That brings me to the next idea, is that you need to have a place to practice. Most people, if they're effective with this, they have, even if it's just a little corner of a room or a desk, or they've got their studio, basically it's a place with a decent chair where you can sit properly, a music stand, and all of your, like your sheet music or your laptop or the things that you need to work, all in one place. So you take the instrument out, you're ready to practice. If you don't have a place like that, it becomes hard to actually work effectively. You got your stuff strewn across the house. Been there, done that. You're trying to find a place where you can practice in quiet. Other family members make distractions for you, whatever. It's really hard. So having your own little corner where you can shut the door and concentrate on what you're doing, and everything you need is in one place. To me, that's a real important thing. In that place, it's good to have something of a library. I love buying books, and I've kind of slowed down over the last couple of years. But for me, if I get uninspired, or I feel like I'm been barking up the same tree for too long, I'll walk in and pull some stuff off my shelf. Last night on my way home, I grabbed these things almost kind of randomly. There was a Joe Pass chord solos, a book on reading rhythms for guitar, and then I thought this was actually something else, but it's a book on guitar tuning. Turns out that I just kind of went through it and found a couple different ways that they recommend tuning your instrument. So having that kind of stuff is real helpful. Having references, I keep a large library of guitar magazines with transcriptions in them. That stuff's real helpful. If you've got a computer in the place where you practice, getting some slowdown software is helpful. I use a thing called Capo for the Mac. There's the Amazing Slowdowner. A real popular one right now is something called Transcribe. And these are things that they allow you to slow music down to a tempo where you can hear things, where you can execute passages. You can change the key if it's tuned down, or it's out of tune with where you're at, or if you need to transpose it. They help you develop your ear, which is a really, really important thing. I like working from transcriptions, but the reality is if you don't work at pulling music off of a recording with your own ears, you're not developing a lot of oral skills that you'll need as a player. So that's kind of helpful. If you keep a notebook of things that you're working on, that's, in a way, it's kind of nice because it gives you your own program. You get an idea of what you've worked on, where you've been. You can put stuff that you definitely want to work on in the future towards the back of the notebook. I kind of got that idea from Carl Verheyen at a clinic that he gave. He talked about how he keeps all these notebooks, and it's almost like a daily practice journal, which I don't go quite that crazy with it, but a lot of times he'll go to the back of the stack and pull something really old out and work on that. And it keeps him from losing ideas. If he gets a really cool lick idea or something like that, he'll write it out and put it in the notebook. So it just that's kind of a cool tactic there too. The last thing to me that's really, really important, is the idea of becoming part of a community of musicians that can inspire you and drive you forward and encourage you and influence you. I went for a lot of years playing as a guitar player in bands where I was the only guitar player. I was too busy making a living to hang out with other guys. And in recent years, through online guitar forums, through local jams, some of the gigs I'm playing, some of the people I work with now, I'm able to encounter other musicians that they're very encouraging. You can ask questions. You can be inspired by something really cool that they're doing. There's all of these things that you can benefit from being a part of a community. And even on the guitar forums, I know that John Finn is he plays with the Boston Pops, and he does all kinds of cool session work. He's an instructor at Berklee College of Music in Boston. He hangs out in the lesson loft at Harmony Central. Tomo Fujita, who is on the Gear page, he teaches at Berklee as well. You get a lot of guys like that that are there that really like sharing their knowledge, and almost all of them that I've encountered have been really nice, really encouraging guys. So it's really one of those things that, there's this wealth of stuff out there. To me, when you pay for guitar lessons, you're paying for somebody to present you information, but none of that information is new. What you're paying for with a guitar teacher is someone to kind of keep you on track and give you weekly assessments of what you're doing, and hopefully presenting this information to you in a way that's most suited to you personally. But when you're unable to do that sort of thing, you still should be able to find a lot of that same information online that's for free, and there's a lot of places to ask questions. Now, people always say, you put a lot of free guitar lessons online. Does that interfere with, your actual business of, having people pay you for guitar lessons? And not really, because most of my business ends up being the guitar student that understands that, it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much information out there, but sometimes it just helps to have somebody put it together in a digestible fashion for you. So, the reality is that, no guitar teacher is going to give you anything new or secret or anything like that. Everything's out there. But sometimes it really helps to have a little bit of help, though.